So, today we're going to talk about a book that really flips our whole idea of toughness completely on its head. It's called Do Hard Things by Steve Magnus, and it makes a pretty bold argument that the old school tough guy model we've all seen, well, it's not just wrong, it's actually destructive. So, let's get into the surprising science of what real inner strength actually looks like.
When I say toughness, what's the first image that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably something like this, right? That gritty, stoic, show no pain, show no weakness kind of vibe. It's a really powerful ideal we see in movies, in sports, everywhere. But here's the question. Does it actually work, or is it all just for show?
I mean, this is the voice of old school toughness, right here, the legendary basketball coach Bobby Knight. And his whole method, it was built on fear, on intimidation, on humiliation, and yeah, it won him championships. But it also perfectly captures this myth that we really need to unpack, the idea that this kind of behavior is what it takes to be tough. And it's not just him. Let's take another classic toughness legend, the Junction Boys. So the myth goes that Coach Bear Bryant's absolutely brutal training camp forged this unbreakable championship team. But what's the real story? Well, that supposedly hardened team, they went 1-9 that season. The camp wasn't some factory for creating tough guys. It was a filter that literally drove away incredible talent, including guys who went on to become NFL players. And this is where things get really serious. This old model of toughness isn't just kind of ineffective, it's straight up dangerous. When we get this idea of being tough mixed up with just being callous, the consequences can be, well, they can be devastating. The tragic death of Jordan McNair is just a horrifying example. Here you have a 19-year-old football player who collapsed from heat stroke. But because the culture was all about pushing through the pain, what did he get? He got yelled at, not helped. By the time somebody finally called 911, it was just too late. This wasn't a test of toughness. This was a complete failure to recognize a kid was in a life-or-death situation. And, this mentality goes way beyond the football field. In parenting, in leadership, this authoritarian style, the whole do it because I said so approach, is scientifically linked to all sorts of negative outcomes. It doesn't build grit. It doesn't build discipline. In fact, the research shows it creates the exact opposite. More aggression, more burnout, and here's the real kicker. It creates individuals who are less able to cope with challenges on their own. The book puts it in a way that it hits you. Saying the old school way is the best way to build toughness, that's like saying the best way to teach a kid to swim is to just chuck them in the deep end. Yeah, sure, maybe a few will figure it out and learn to swim, but a lot of them are going to struggle, and some might, actually drown. It's a terrible strategy, built on brute force and luck. There has to be a better way. Okay, so if that whole model is broken, then what's the alternative? Well, the book offers a new, and I think a much more profound definition of toughness. And it's not about ignoring reality. It's about actually engaging with it. And this right here, this is the heart of it all. Real toughness isn't about having a higher pain tolerance. It's about how you navigate discomfort. It's the ability to feel distress, to lean into it without panicking, and to create just enough mental space to make a smart decision instead of having a knee-jerk reaction. And when you put them side by side, the difference is it's night and day. Fake toughness, it's a mask. A fragile performance, it's fueled by insecurity, and it shatters under real pressure. But real toughness is flexible, it's adaptive, it comes from a place of quiet confidence and lets you have a thoughtful response, not just a fearful reaction. Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually build this new kind of toughness? Well, it starts with cultivating a completely different kind of confidence, one that's built from the inside out. Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've all been told to just fake it till you make it. But the science shows that building that real, durable, quiet confidence requires a much more honest approach. And if you want to see just how detached from reality fake confidence can be, get this. A survey found that 1 in 8 men believe they could score a single point in a tennis match against Serena Williams. I mean, come on. That's not confidence, that's delusion. And it perfectly highlights the problem with that loud, chest-puffed-out version of belief. So getting this difference is absolutely key. That loud, fake confidence demonizes doubt, and it often leads to what psychologists call an action crisis. That's the moment your inflated ego smacks right into reality and you just freeze. But quiet confidence, on the other hand, is grounded. It allows for doubt, not as a weakness, but as a reality check. It's built on an honest look at your real abilities. So, how do we build it? The book lays out 4 concrete steps. First, raise your floor, not just your ceiling. This means focusing on improving your average day, not just your best day, because consistency is what builds real skill. Second, embrace reality. Accept your shortcomings instead of masking them. You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge. Third, build trust in the work you've already put in. And finally, develop a quiet ego, one that's open to feedback instead of constantly being on the defensive. All right, now for the final and maybe the most powerful pillar of real toughness. It's not about enduring more, it's about having a sense of control over your own path. It's all about autonomy. There's a classic experiment that revealed this phenomenon called learned helplessness. See, dogs that were subjected to shocks they couldn't control eventually just stopped trying to escape. Even when an escape route was put right in front of them, they learned that their actions didn't matter, so they just gave up. This is what happens to our brains when we feel like we have no choice. And the power of choice is astounding. The author, who's an elite runner himself, saw this in his own performance tests. The traditional VO2 max test forces athletes to run at a machine's pace. But look what happened when he let them control their own pace. Their physical performance, their actual oxygen utilization, was significantly higher. Simply the perception of control unlocked greater physical capacity.
And this isn't just a psychological preference, it's a biological imperative. Our brains are literally wired to thrive when we have a say in what happens. When we take choice away from people, we're basically training them to be helpless. When we give choice back, we're training toughness and hope.
So the takeaway is this. Toughness isn't a rigid suit of armor you put on to brace for impact. No, it's an internal compass, a flexible, responsive tool that helps you navigate the challenges of life with awareness, with confidence, and with choice. So the real question isn't how hard you can be, but how well you can navigate. Where's your compass pointing?